So Pramod Goyal will be doing this right now, and after which I will be managing the Q&A with the audience. So let's move on to the next slide, which is the okay. So we got a disclaimer we got to get out of the way. Sorry, guys, this disclaimer has to get out of the way. So again, whatever we talk about here is only for general information purposes, does not constitute legal or professional advice. And the last one there are more important, but the rest of you can read it. The views expressed by the speakers are their own personal opinion, do not necessarily reflect the official position or policy of the ICCC. And then one last slide, which I think we got to talk about, is the ICCC Small Business Assist Program. Now, what we have at the ICCC is, since COVID started, we have a group of people at the ICCC that have skills in certain areas like finance, marketing, technology, and we have people in our membership as well as outside in the general Indo-Canadian community that might need assistance. So all you got to do is send us an email to iccc@icconline.org, and one of our members, one of our advisors, volunteer advisors, will do a 30-minute free consultation, and we think that can help. In most cases, sometimes you're stuck, you don't know what to do, you just need a little bit of help. Give us a call, and we'll have one of our volunteers help out. Moving on. So talking business with Mayor Bonnie Crombie and Patrick Brown. So I'll now hand over to Pramod. Pramodji, over to you. Pramodji, again, is the President and CEO of Canada-wide Financial Corporation, President and Board of the Indo-Canadian Chamber of Commerce. A lot of you know Pramod already, and Pramod is a very astute businessman and also very good at numbers, also very, very sharp in terms of what's happening around. And I think he's got a few questions that probably will help all of us understand how the mayors have tackled COVID-19 and their view on the world ahead. Over to you, Pramodji.
Vijay, welcome once again, Mayor Bonnie Crombie, Mayor Patrick Brown, and it's always been a pleasure to talk to you. And today that pleasure, I would say, is compounded when we have an occasion where both of you are together with us. Thank you very much for taking the time and for being with us this afternoon. At the outset, let me congratulate both of you for being on the top of COVID-19 pandemic in terms of cities' preparedness and handling. You have both been proactive and have taken effective measures to combat the spread of pandemic in the respective municipalities. However, as we are moving on to phase 3, we still feel and we notice that Peel region has still not completely emerged out of the grip of COVID-19. Both Mississauga and Brampton, along with a few other cities, continue to register fresh cases. So just would like to know from your own perspective as to what would you account for this grim reality that is still continuing a bit, though it is much better now. Can I request Mayor Crombie to start the discussion, and then we can move on to Mayor Brown for his input as well on this issue.
Thank you very much. And first, let me thank ICCC for having us both and allowing us to have this conversation with your members. We both know you very well. And thank you, Pramod, as well, and Vijay and Mayank, your executive director. Thank you all of us for organizing this and giving us the opportunity. Mayor Brown and I know each other very well. Our connection goes back to our days in Ottawa. I was there a little briefer than he was. I took the early retirement package. I think I like to frame it that way. But we were both active members on the Canada-India Friendship Association. You may have been president for a while, Patrick. I think you were, in fact. And he let me come on. And that's not the saying, you didn't let a few others. So he did allow me. So we have a strong affiliation. And an affinity for India. I have not been as many times as Mayor Brown has. I will share that with you, but certainly have been a couple of times and enjoyed each visit and have toured all the hot spots. And my second trip was with ICCC, and we had a fabulous time and made a lot of business connections. And I did end up attending, a couple of the Vijay, help me out. It was, I'm losing my train of thought here. In Ahmedabad, it was, what was that called? And then you and I will both think of it, and I'll say it later, but we at Ahmedabad, and also BPD, right? Bharati.
BPD.
Yeah, BPD we attended, and the big conference that's held every second year in Ahmedabad, which was fabulous to attend. So
Vibrant Gujarat.
Vibrant Gujarat, of course. How could I forget? Yes. So, so certainly, Mississauga, like Brampton, we have put a lot of measures in place to assist our residents. We have done numerous consultations, and it's hard to believe that it's been 20 weeks since we've been in this pandemic. I know that my economic development office, and I know that Brampton has done the same. We've had many meetings with different sectors, with our business groups, small business, large business, with seniors, with multi-faith communities, with residents associations, with business improvement areas, you name it, and also specific roundtables with each of our sectors. There's a lot of information on how to deal with COVID on the website, so we have it for businesses on thefutureisunlimited.ca/COVID-19, #19. So the futureisunlimited.ca is where you can find a lot of information on supports for businesses small and large that our city has put out. I'm sure Brampton has done the same. We've also put out an economic recovery framework to help our businesses, but I'm very blessed that we have a very strong but very diverse business community. And I don't mean only diverse in the demographics of our population, which we also appreciate because of the language skills and the talent that is brought forward, but also the sectors are very diverse. So we are able to withstand the sort of the shock to our economy. We have a new motto. We've launched a new campaign, not only Mississauga Made, encouraging everyone to stay local, but also Mississauga Strong Ready. So we are in phase 2 of the recovery. Mayor Brown and I have joined other mayors in the GTA, Mayor John Tory, and asked that a regional approach be taken, that we be cautious, that we be measured, and that we be very reasonable in our reopening, because of it makes absolute sense to everyone. It's common sense that the more densely populated the communities, the risk of transmission is higher, of course, and of course any large city, particularly in the less, shall we call it, more socioeconomically challenged areas where perhaps the same supports aren't available or the same healthcare isn't available, then of course we see transmission higher, especially if there is people are living in congregate settings like long-term care facilities, but also apartment buildings, condominiums, etc., where the opportunity for transmission is greater. So of course, any populated area, the risk of transmission is greater. So we asked the Premier some weeks ago, to be very slow and deliberate in his approach. We asked for a regional approach and we got it. So of course, we went into phase 2 later than the other regions, and he held back Toronto, Peel, and actually held the Golden Horseshoe and Windsor Essex back from phase 2. And now we see that many regions have gone into phase 3, all except Toronto, Peel, and of course, Windsor, Essex, where we know there are a problem with migrant workers as well. And we, I think Mayor Brown and I are in agreement. We want a slow and deliberate approach. We want to make our decisions based on science and the data and the evidence, and when the conditions are right, so that we have the right supports in our healthcare system, in our hospital, we have the right hospital capacity, we're doing the testing that is needed, and we have the ability to do the contact tracing that is needed, we will get there as well. So I know that some businesses and some residents are disappointed we're not going into phase 3. However, it is the right decision for now. We are both in declining numbers for almost 4 weeks now. So we're very confident we're going to get there, but let's get there when it's right, the right timing. We don't want to hurry this. We want to be on, as Mayor Brown has said, on the right side of history on this, because you only get one opportunity to do it right. Once you reopen businesses, you run the risk of transmission. and the virus spreading, and you run risk of business that are open, close, and the risk of the new businesses that are still waiting not being able to open. So I think that we're all in agreement. We want to do the right thing. We want to take the right approach, and we want to do it when we're ready, and we're almost there. And so I'll leave it there. I know Mayor Brown will speak from his perspective. We're in about on average, 5 new cases per day. So I'm confident. We actually had a day or two that had 0 cases, but that was an anomaly, and we realized that the risk of it increasing is very great still, and we could rebound. And the last thing we want, and we definitely want to avert the second wave in the fall. And that is our goal, trying to protect the health and safety of our residents. We want more businesses to open, but we want to do it safely, and we don't want to have to go into lockdown once again in the fall and risk all the gains that we have made through this initial lockdown in the spring. So I'll leave it there, and I'm sure Mayor Brown will have some similar comments. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor Crombie. Thank you. Can we request now Mayor Brown to have his perspective on?
Yes. Well, thank you, Promote. It's great to be on this call with our friends from ICCC. I'm proud to have a long history, like Mayor Crombie, with ICCC. I have been going to ICCC events for the last 20 years, the annual dinner, the missions to India. I've now been to India 20 times, and you don't go to a country 20 times unless you fall in love with the culture, the people, and the vastness of the country. And I say, as much as I've been 20 times, I could go 100 times, and you still haven't seen enough of incredible India. And whether it is the entrepreneurial spirit of Gujarat and Ahmedabad, where I was with Mayor Crombie, whether it is the food and the culinary delights in the Punjab, the city that never sleeps in Mumbai, the Malayali culture in the south in Kerala, where I've been on those houseboats, or frankly, even playing ice hockey in the Himalayas up in Ladakh, where our High Commission organizes an annual hockey tournament. There is just so much to see. And whether it's speaking at a vibrant Gujarat conference, attending a PBD, there are so many opportunities for Canada and India. It's just a natural relationship, and I think it's why public servants like myself and Mayor Crombie have put so much energy and eagerness into this historic relationship. Not to mention, I don't think there are communities like Mississauga and Brampton that have such a large diaspora of success stories. I see in Brampton Indo-Canadian success stories left, right, and center, people that are making our city better every day. And I'm grateful for their determination and their success. Frankly, that's the Canadian story. In terms of COVID-19, like Mayor Crombie said, it hits denser areas harder. In Mississauga, Brampton, Toronto, because of population density, the virus will circulate quicker. If you're in a rural area, you're up north in Timmins, of course, it's not the environment in which the virus can spread as quickly. I've also been told by our medical officer of health and those on our emergency management team that when you have multiple families living together, it also creates a greater risk. And it's something special. I love this about Brampton. It's you have 3 generations sometimes living together, and it's pretty. I love it. I know when my parents come over and stay, I love it because we're all together. But I find in Brampton it's quite common to have multiple generations living together, and so you have something beautiful that's actually created a scenario where the virus can travel faster, and so it's created an additional pressure on our city. But we're resilient, and we're going to get through it. And I have to say, as much as we've had a few bad apples, 99% of the city is doing the right thing. That news headlines always focus on the negative. Someone had a party or someone wasn't following public health advice. But 99% of the city says, yes, I want to listen to the health officials. I trust our healthcare workers and I want to take the advice of Peel Public Health. And what I see in the community is inspiring. Every day I'm invited to different events where someone is donating to the hospital or donating to frontline workers or donating to those who are working in the long-term care setting. The level of generosity and this notion that everyone wants to step up and pitch in is beautiful. And for that, I'm seeing some of the best in our community. Now, I know this isn't just a health pandemic, it's an economic firestorm, and it's why we're working on ways to support our local businesses. We deferred property taxes 6 months. We have a Shop Local campaign. We've expedited the creation of patios, and we're working, as much as City Hall and government buildings may be officially shut down, we're working around the clock. We've got everyone working on all cylinders. You can get a permit issued. Any municipal department is still open. And I'm on daily calls with Mayor Crombie, whether it's on a GTA level or a Peel Region level, to make sure that we still have the level of servicing available for residents. And so, we're going to get through this. I know it's hard, and I'm sure there's members of yours in this ICCC family who are saying it's been hard on business, hard on their family, but we're going to get through it. And, I'm sure down the road we're going to talk about this period. My grandmother, Pramod, is 106, and she is in a seniors home where they had one of the worst outbreaks in the province. Half the residents died. Half of the residents died. Over half got COVID-19, and she fortunately didn't get COVID-19. And I was visiting her, and I said, boy, what you've seen in your lifetime. You've seen the Spanish influenza, you've seen 2 world wars, and you live to talk about it. And frankly, that's taught generations about appreciating the little things you have around you, about resilience. And I think years from now, we're going to talk about what we learned in this COVID and how we got through it by working together and appreciating the little things, like being able to spend time with family, that was, in some cases taken away from us right now. So, I'm optimistic. As much as we're facing difficulty and adversity, I'm optimistic that we're going to be in a great place next year.
For sure. Yes, Mayor Brown, thank you for input. Yes, I look forward, all of us. Since we're talking about the phase 3 reopening and moving on to the next stage, one other aspect that I believe the prolonged delay in implementing this phase 3 reopening of economy in both the cities, Mississauga and Brampton, could also lead to a severe resource strain, whatever the delay is, it is causing to the budgets of both the cities, I'm sure. So would you like to share, Mayor Brown, any estimate of how adverse is the effect of the lockdown and the kind of delay that we are seeing in reopening on the city resources specifically?
So it did cause significant strain on municipal resources. And frankly, we were taking precautions. We let go 3,000 part-time and seasonal staff. No other level of government were making hard decisions like municipalities were. Even with those hard decisions, we were facing significant shortfalls. In our case, we're looking at best case scenario, a 5 to 7% hit on our operating budget. But the mayors, we can't run deficits. It's not allowed. And I didn't want to be in a position where I'd have to tell Peel Public Health, there's no money left, you have to stop taking care of residents. I didn't want to say to the police or the transit operators or the firefighters that we've run out of money. It's just not, it's not something that's reconcilable. Imagine we didn't have fire service or public health during a pandemic, it would be untenable. And so we decided to have a collective effort. Mayors in the GTA, Ontario, and Canada, we lobbied the provincial and federal government. And the lobbying has made a difference. They announced yesterday there's going to be a fund, actually just as recently as today, the details are coming out, a fund of $4 billion for Ontario municipalities to help with some of these losses. So I think, right now we don't see the specific numbers per municipality, but it looks like a lot of these losses are going to be recouped. And so I think we're going to be in an okay position. Now I say that with cautious optimism, because until I see that transfer payment to our municipality, it's not done. But I am optimistic that they have heard our collective call, and it's something that we work very closely on. All the mayors. Mayor Crombie and myself are part of the GTHA mayors. We're also part of LUNCO, which is the large urban Ontario mayors, and the big city mayors caucus. So we were part of 3 groups that were all lobbying to make sure that this was rectified.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Would you like to share your side of the story from Mississauga's perspective?
Absolutely, and I think Mayor Brown explained how there's so much collegiality between the regions and between the mayors. I mean, Mayor, we have calls with the big city mayors every couple of weeks. Earlier, we were doing that more often. The Ontario big city mayors, the same thing every couple of weeks. But the GTHA mayors are convened every Monday. So we spoke today, we spoke the week before, and because of course our issues are a little more similar. And it was very important that the mayors were aligned from an advocacy standpoint. And of course, we all came together and we all wrote letters together as a group and also individually to the finance ministers, federally to Bill Morneau, provincially to Rod Phillips, to the premier, to the prime minister, to Chrystia Freeland. So we all advocated with one voice. And what we said was, well, you've done a great job handling the pandemic, and you've provided the necessary relief to residents through the CERB and other increased EI, and you provided grants and supports to small businesses, large businesses. You prevented evictions from occurring, so landlords couldn't evict their tenants, and given the tenants more protections. But now it's time to turn your sights to cities, and we need your help too, because we're all in an operating deficit. All of us. And of course, cities aren't allowed to be in an operating deficit. It's not in the rules, and our losses are non-recoverable, and we can't borrow. We have no capacity to borrow like the federal or the provincial governments do. So we were really in a difficult position. And so from our perspective, I mean, Mississauga did everything we could to assist our residents, just as Mayor Brown has done, and we all speak. So of course, if anyone has a good idea, we all jump on and do the same thing. We promoted the Shop Here campaign, and what we did was we assisted our residents, the small businesses, to putting their businesses online through Shop Here and Stop Here and Shop Local campaigns. We assisted them to get their businesses online. They were very adaptable, they were very nimble, and many of them became very innovative in order to survive. And certainly the cities were as well. And to make it easier for our residents, we deferred all our property taxes. We deferred all interest payments and fines. We forgave any parking infractions, so just go ahead and park. And we made transit free. We were losing $7.5 million a month on free transit. We allowed rear door boarding so that people could enter from the rear and feel safer. We've now installed the plexiglass shields to protect our drivers, and we installed barriers so that people couldn't come close to the drivers. But we're now starting to come back to fair revenue as well. But we've been operating at 50% or less capacity as people worked from home, number one, and two, still feeling insecure with not keeping safe physical distance. Some other things that we did, like Mayor Brown in Brampton, we had a hiring freeze. We laid off 2,000 people as we closed our rec centers and our cultural facilities. We laid off all those people, and that did give us a little bit of savings. What else did we do? And we stopped all discretionary spending. So the bottom line is this: we have a $107 million deficit. That's a really big number, and I don't know how we climb out of there. So we took the matters into our own hands, and we said we got to start making cuts, and we got to do that now. So the hiring freeze helped, the layoffs helped. It actually gave us back a bit of revenue. Going back to fair collection on July 2nd helped a little bit. Property taxes are starting to come in once again. We're starting to collect interest payments and parking fine revenue, etc. So we've been able to mitigate about $47 million of it. So my losses right now will be $60 million. 60. And that's a big number. And a lot of those losses, those transit revenues, that's non-recoverable. They're non-recoverable at all for us. So let's just gone. So we've been lobbying heavily, advocating to all levels of government, provincial, federal, that now's the time to assist cities. And and I'll give credit to Premier Ford. He certainly went to bat at the First Minister's table and, said he was holding out for more funding from the federal government, because both of them didn't really see it as their responsibility. I'll be honest. The feds said, well, cities are creatures of the province. It's your responsibility. And the province rightly said, hey, you've helped everybody else and you have the mint up there. It's your responsibility. So it was a bit of this game. Who's going to stare down? Who's going to support cities first? So we've been patiently waiting, but money was running out and we were all suffering from liquidity issues. So we're very grateful that $7 billion has been announced for cities in Ontario. And further, that announcement today was $2 billion to help cities with their operating losses, and a further $2 billion to assist with transit losses. And so that'll be on some sort of formula on ridership and population. And we're waiting to hear the details, quite frankly, but we're very grateful that the money has publicly been committed now. We've been hearing it's coming, but until you show me the money, until you see it, it doesn't really exist. So we've all tightened our belts. I've gone through my income statement. I've gone through our budget and looked at any tax-funded capital program that I could delay or defer or cancel outright. We've been trying to do. Some of them are on the capital plan. It just doesn't help on the operating side. So we've done what we can, and we're willing to do more. But of course, going into a recovery, cities, of course, are the engines, and you expect us to lead that recovery. We would be cutting programs and services and not stimulating the economy and the recovery. So this is very welcome news for us, and a big thank you to all those involved, including Premier Ford and Minister Clark, and of course our Prime Minister, Minister Morneau, and Chrystia Freeland as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Crombie. And I think you both mentioned, yes, I also saw that news for the $4 billion in infusion that Premier Ford has announced this morning. I mean, we had to see the details as to specifically what municipality gets how much. But we sincerely wish and hope that both of our communities are able to fill in the gap that has been created because of the funding shortages, and that we are able to get sufficient money from the provincial and federal coffers. Now, as both of you know, our chamber primarily represents small business owners, and a sizable section of our membership is based on or have their businesses in both the cities, Mississauga and Brampton. And these are the small business owners who have had to face the brunt of the lockdown and are still facing a kind of uncertain future, even as we talk about reopening. If we talk about specifically, say, restaurant owners, they've expressed concerns that even if they're now allowed, when they start, they may not be adequate clientele because people are still kind of a little hesitant to go out and spend the time, even though we have initiated programs to support, expand the patio and this and that, but still, in the absence of adequate numbers with the limitations and still in place, and whereas once they open, there would be cost factors that would trickle down, whether it is rental or other fixed costs and staffing. And especially a lot of business comes in from business operations, like people working in nearby businesses. So that is also not actively open as of now. What do you think the city can do in addition to what has been done? Or what kind of a role a chamber like ours can play in terms of getting the confidence in the people when the phase 3 starts to start a little bit of movement and support these businesses in terms of their economic viability? Do you want to respond, Mayor Crombie, and then?
Sure, no problem. So the one thing I want to say is we are there to provide supports to our small businesses, our chambers of commerce, our residents associations, our seniors groups, our multi-faith, all our groups. My goodness, we're there. But the one thing we can't do is to provide subsidy grants and loans. That's just not the role of the municipal government. I like to say we build your roads, your bridges, and your sewers. That's it. And so for financial subsidy, I mean, other than deferring or delaying taxes or forgiving penalties and forgiving other fines and other kind of payments that go to the city. And certainly I know that Mayor Brown was very generous in forgiving or waiving, I think, some of their rents. We deferred ours, but we didn't waive them in our city buildings. But nonetheless, so those are, we provide, so there's not a lot of financial support from cities. You need to get those from the provincial government, and that's where they're better suited to deliver that. We have our own financial constraints, as I explained in my last session. But we've been there through our economic development department and through our economic development advisory committee. We've created up a task force on recovery and resilience, and we've been meeting and dealing and also meeting with all the businesses, and we've been conducting webinars to assist businesses on how to get online and how to merchandise yourself online, and giving those kinds of supports. So whether we've been consulting with them every week or making those websites available for them, creating those webinars, as Mayor Brown said, we're part of the Shop Here program. We have the Made in Mississauga program. We have all those programs. But the one thing I will share is that there aren't financial assistance other than tax deferrals from the city, but we've advocated for you. We've advocated with the Premier, especially on rents. We know we didn't want to see anyone evicted because they weren't able to pay their rents over this, over the COVID period. And certainly he has been quite vocal about no evictions during rent. But, even the rental arrangements have to be made between the landowner and the tenant, and they are protected. But, there's not a role for us to intervene other than a moral one. We can apply our own moral pressure and moral suasion, but we don't have any financial tools in which to dissuade them. So, I think Brampton has done the same with providing workshops, webinars, programs, supports of that nature. Here's how you get online. Here's how other people did it. Just the financial supports don't exist at the municipal level.
Thank you. Mayor Brown, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would concur with Mayor Crombie that municipalities can't offer subsidies, but we are there to support our local businesses any way we can. And Mayor Crombie mentioned a number of initiatives that we have done for local businesses. But also, we're trying to be an easy place for businesses to operate. So if there's any red tape, if there's any barriers, you just email myself directly or Mayor Crombie. We're very hands-on, and we will tear down any barriers that exist in that permitting process. Another thing we can do as municipalities is sort of be a clearinghouse for confusion. I know there's so many programs, whether it's the wage subsidy, the new policy for landlords, and I know in our economic development department, I imagine it's the same in Bonnie's. We've got staff members there to stick handle and point you in the right direction. And so sometimes getting through to the federal government, the provincial government, can be a wall of confusion, and it can be frustrating and disheartening. Well, call our economic development department and we'll help you stick handle that difficulty.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. You both mentioned about, say, in terms of support, when we talk about small businesses, that we initiated temporary patio program aimed at helping the restaurant owners. And then we also have this movement wherein we're saying the shop local program to support the local retailers. I'm not sure. I mean, if we don't have specific input, but I would like to know from you if you have any specific input out of these programs as to how they're doing and how effective they have been, and if there is anything that could be done to further enhance the effectiveness of these programs.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me add a comment there. I think the patio programs are very successful. Left, right, and center, I've had restaurants jump on that. And so we got some great patios being set up across Brampton. And I've been so proud of the creativity in some cases, whether it's patios happening on parking lots or the side of a road, beautiful structures that have been created for the environment we're in. We know from public health that transmission is very low risk outdoors. And so it's a perfect way to support a local restaurant and safely dine outdoors. And so that's been a success. In terms of some other programs, I look at the federal rent subsidy program. I've heard a lot of complaints that not all landlords are listening, and that may be a kind generalization. I know I had a call with a group of landlords, the larger landlords in Brampton, and saying, listen, you could lose your tenant. You could lose your tenant if you don't give them a break. And, please do your best to be generous and compassionate during a period of widespread adversity. I guess I would have wished that the landlord program, the rent subsidy program, had a little bit more teeth to force landlords to participate, because I think there are many landlords that are not participating.
That's right.
From my perspective, I'll say the same about the patio program. I think we all because we share best practices on the GTHA mayor's calls, we're all doing it. And certainly, we waived all permit requirements and all encroachment agreement requirements and just said, just build it. You have permission today until the end of December, go ahead, because of course we didn't know if we were going to get indoor dining and when that would come and what phase that would come in at the time. So we just said, just go ahead. And so certainly we have had a strong uptake on that as well. It is very, very popular. And I see as well people being very creative, even right onto Lakeshore Boulevard in our downtown up in Streetsville, just wonderful. But also the Shop Here program, that was a support for businesses, but also artists on how to develop an online store, right? And with this, and they got support from post-secondary students, and they could apply for the program and the online store to get assistance to build that at no cost. So that was great. I'm just trying to see, I just asked my staff here a second ago what the uptake was on it, but we certainly know they were well subscribed, all the webinars that we did. Of course, people are at home, they're getting used to Zoom calls and WebEx calls and think, oh, maybe I can learn something. And they hear us promoting these. And so many, many did. And I've got to give it to our local businesses. They've become very nimble and very innovative very quickly. And, when they first were permitted to curbside pickup and delivery, or you could open only if you had a door to the main street, we call it Main Street shopping, they did so. And then it was drop off delivery service, online service. How many retailers I know that had always thought about putting, going online with their merchandise, but had never done it yet. This gave them that opportunity. And so, as many businesses were closed, there were many that really were actually growing and thriving, like the online. If anyone who knew anything about web design was thriving, anyone in the PPE business was thriving. Of course, grocery stores were thriving. So there were many businesses that were doing very, very well. And web supports was clearly one of them. And I know many people, it just gave them finally that opportunity to focus on, wow, now I really do need to change my business model. How am I going to deliver my product to my customers and get it out there? So whether it was Shop Here or Mississauga Made, we gave them that assistance and it worked well. And then the patio program was another really great. And I've had the opportunity to be out to a few of those patios myself, and boy, are they in demand too. Thanks.
Thank you, we're looking at some of the impacts of full opening of phase 3 reopening. When we look at some of the other countries globally where we see resurgence whenever the movement was allowed or the lockdowns were lifted. And so again, Canada as a whole, and especially Ontario, we've been doing excellent work. So the situation is not similar. It's totally the opposite, I would say. We are much better positioned. But just out of abundance, caution, like if we look at when we move on to the next stages as we go along, so are there any additional measures that are being taken so that there is no resurgence of COVID-19 cases when we have expanded opening? Mayor Brown, would you like to comment?
Well, once again, we're working in a very collaborative fashion on this. The GTHA mayors have advocated. I know Mayor Tory wrote a letter to the province of Ontario for additional public health measures. Mayor Crombie, myself, Mayor Thompson from Caledon, and our medical officer health, Dr. Lawrence Lowe, wrote a letter just last week about additional health measures we thought would be helpful, whether it is how we're going to manage bars in the reopening and gyms. And I know Mayor Crombie felt very strongly about gyms. Whether it's a bar or a gym, it is a petri dish for the virus to spread. And I look what's happened in the States, and I don't want those mistakes to happen here. And so we have advocated for additional measures, additional public health measures for those two spots. And frankly, we're looking at everything. As other parts of the province are already in stage 3, and I know Ottawa's having some challenges with it, we're studying, and the medical officers of health are all talking. So there's a little bit of an advantage of us being a week or two delayed, is that we can see what's happening elsewhere.
Yeah, if I could jump in there. So initially, you always have two groups in the community. Group one says lockdown, shut everything down, let's get it right, let's do it once. And then you have the other group. And I will say that the other group is much smaller that says, hey, wait a minute, I have my rights. And I don't want to wear a mask and I don't want to have to stay home, right? Fortunately, group one is, and then somewhere in between is where we ended up, right? Where we had said, encourage people to stay home, to use caution, safe physical distancing, 6 feet, 2 meters, stay home except for once a week, go get your groceries, go to the pharmacy, go get gas, stay home, work from home as much as possible. So somewhere in between, and it seemed to work. We had a very good example, very good outcome, very good versus the rest of the world. There were some countries that fared pretty well, but then you even saw some of them went into a second lockdown. You saw what happened in, I think it was South Korea, and now they're worried about, I think, Spain and France are a couple of countries that had come out and now may have to go back into phase 2, right? So the best thing to do is to be cautious. Take your time. Let's get it right. So, when the mayors, especially of the GTHA, said, look, we believe in mandatory masks, face coverings. Let's call it face covering because you can use a scarf or a bandana or whatever you wish. We believe that because we want to protect the businesses that are open, and we want to allow more businesses to open later. And with opening businesses and the Premier allowing more people to gather, the risk of transmission is higher. So let's protect you from me and me from you and wear the face covering, and we'll all be safer. And maybe at the end of the day, we can avert the second wave. And we saw what happened in Kelowna, Montreal, and even Edmonton and Calgary. They're seeing a little bit uptick, right? We saw what happened in Kingston. They virtually had no COVID cases. And then one day in a nail salon, there were 13. And 13 can become 130 and 1,300 very, very quickly. So they imposed the masks as well. And I think we did the right thing. You have a small group of people that don't believe that that's the way to go. And then I have another group of people that want the lockdown. So, we're just saying, if you can't wear a mask for medical reasons, we understand, but we think it's the right thing to do. And just before, I know Mayor Brown looks like he wants to jump in, I wanted to give you some numbers on what happened in with our webinars that we offered at the city. So we did 150 one-on-one business consultations, so the huge uptake. 51 companies engaged, representing over 10,000 employees, so lots of interest. 19 webinars were hosted, supported by our Economic Development Office, attracted 1,700 attendees, and we also held 10 business roundtable discussions with over 54 businesses representing over 19,000 employees. So I think that the uptake was pretty good, and what the city did and how we tried to assist our businesses. Maybe we weren't able to do so financially, but we certainly tried to be supportive in other ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Brown, you were, I think, saying something. Yeah, please.
No, I think Mayor Crombie covered that, so we can move on to the next question.
Okay, no, thank you. I'm actually running behind my time. So I think I had a few other questions that I wanted to discuss, but I think I'll take this opportunity and request Vijay to take up some of the questions that are coming in from our audience before we run out of time. And if time permits, then I'll come back and ask other questions. So over to Vijay. You can take up the questions from the audience that we have, please.
Thanks, Pramodji. I was going to butt in otherwise. So yes, we've got a lot of questions from the audience. Some of them very specific. I'll take the two very specific questions. One specific question to Mayor Brown. Libraries in Brampton are still closed. The audience member says, if you wear a mask, would it not be safe enough? And I'm not sure if it is still closed, but yeah, I think in Brampton specifically.
Oh, inside the library is closed, but we do have curbside pickup. So if you want your favorite books, you can get them curbside. It's just once again a public health precaution we've taken. Once we move to stage 3, then more municipal buildings can open up. But currently, the best practices we have are curbside pickup.
Mm-hmm. And a similar question, similar lines, swimming pools. It says somebody's done the research. World Health Organization says that swimming pools do not supposedly, water doesn't actually spread the disease, and chlorine could possibly kill the disease as well. So the question is, should swimming pools still be closed?
Yeah, so our medical officer health says swimming pools are very low risk. It's why we've opened a lot of our swimming facilities. So the pool at El Dorado Park is open now. Professor's Lake is open. What we haven't opened is we have some day camps that are being run out of recreation centers, and we haven't opened those right now because we require the space to keep the day camps the appropriate physical distancing, but we are looking at opening those pools on the weekends when the day camps are not operational. But we've had to take some additional measures during this period to make sure that we can continue to operate summer camps for kids.
Mayor Crombie, you want to add anything there? Is that the same?
Yeah, so we don't have our recreational facilities open yet. Our rec centers, community centers are not open yet, as the indoor pools are not open yet. We too have been running summer camp program, which was just allowed under the phase 2 for 50% capacity of children, of youth. And so there's still, I think last time I checked, there was still a little bit of availability. We thought all the parents would jump on that. They've been homeschooling their kids. Kids have been at home while they work from home. So I was the camps were open and there was still a little bit of room. With respect, so we have 7 outdoor pools open, but you do have to register to get in, especially if you want to do, pool laps, that you have to register to use that lane. So we are allowing that. And I think the reason we don't have our indoor pools open yet is because the rec centers, community centers are not technically open, won't open until phase 3, as Mayor Brown said, other than for the day camps. And they were open as of July 6th.
Thank you, Crombie. Now, a question, this is to both of you mayors. We'll start with you, Mayor Crombie. As of Q1, Peel's quarterly average unemployment was around 8.7%. So there was 8.7% unemployed. The number now could be, based on everything, could be higher. So what is the municipality, can you at the municipal level do anything about unemployment? How do you get people more jobs, right? And I think coming out of this, that would be a key thing, because as people get more jobs, they can stimulate the economy. So it's that whole V-shaped recovery thing that people talk about. So what can the municipal level, what can you do, right? I mean, to make sure that's a V-shaped recovery.
So Mayor Brown and I both, we're very active with respect to economic development and attracting investment to our cities. And we've actually had a number of companies announce that they're coming to Mississauga, even throughout the pandemic. Good Works Foods, we have another film studio opening. We've had a new pharmaceutical company, 2 in fact. And so we've had 5 different large companies announce that they're opening. And I think one of the best things that we can do is to continue to attract business and attract investment into our cities that really create jobs and help grow the economy and hence prosperity. I took on the issue of youth unemployment when I first became mayor 6 years ago, and I held a number of job and recruitment fairs for youth, and I had a number of 70 employers come and about 1,300 kids come through looking for jobs or summer jobs or help with resume writing. And so we did that, I think the first 3 out of 4 years we did them. And the youth unemployment is always even higher than our unemployment rates or our employment rates in Peel. So I think it was about 17% with youth unemployment. So it was a scary number, and it was something I took on. So again, we encourage our local companies to continue to recruit and support their our local residents, but at the same time, that's not something that's in our control. What is the continue to attract business and attract investment into our cities.
Thanks, Mayor Crombie. And Mayor Brown, just to add a little more element to that, there's a couple of other questions, but I'll add that the things happening worldwide, right? All the trade wars, things happening in the US, in China. Do you see, those kind of things either helping or, to what Mayor Crombie said, for us to attract businesses to come to the GTA, to the Peel region, to Brampton? Do you see that those other winds, are they helping? Are they tailwinds or are they, headwinds?
think there's definitely a changing. This pandemic is going to cause some ripple effects in our economy in terms of how businesses operate. I think the virtual business storefronts are going to be critical. I think we've learned those with the ability to sell online are coping better than those that didn't have that virtual storefront set up. So I think there's going to be a shift to more digital sales. There's probably going to be a shift to more domestic production too. You know, Canada was reliant in some sectors on overseas production. I think both the Premier and the Prime Minister has said in a number of the tenders they're looking for domestic production. You know, there was the early worry over medical masks when we got into that dispute with the US, where it's a reminder of the importance of domestic production. But, you know, there are businesses that are thriving. You know, Brampton's got a very robust transportation logistics sector. They're thriving right now. Amazon's got a major facility in Brampton. They're thriving. They're hiring. The transportation logistic companies are hiring. Rogers, we have the largest or the second largest Rogers campus in Canada in Brampton. We're always 1 and 2 with the one in Toronto. They're thriving because obviously we're becoming more reliant on telecommunications. So there are sectors that are going to do well. There's sectors that have faced incredible challenges. So yeah, when you go through a firestorm like this, there's going to be ripple effects.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. We're running out of time, but I think we've got time. I know you've got to leave right at 5:30, but we've got 3 minutes, so we'll take 3 quick questions. The one question is for mental health. I mean, there's a lot of mental health issues happening here. You know, during COVID-19, Mayor Crombie, quick 30 seconds. What's Mississauga doing to help people with mental health?
So this is really an issue that comes up at the region of Peel as well, because of course we're a two-tier government and we have a number of mental health programs up the region operating, and we have seen some very public incidents of mental health incidents. It's, you know, two schizophrenic episodes that did not end well. And that said, we want to say that we know that our police services responds to over 15,000 calls every year and over 22,000 suicide attempts. And there were 2 very public tragedies this year. And I just want to say how sorry I am that that occurred. And we are looking for ways to reform police so that we ensure those mental health calls are addressed differently and maybe not by the tactical team going forward. So certainly mental health, not only that, suicide, depression among seniors who have been isolated, domestic abuse is something, senior abuse. These are all issues that are a side effect of this pandemic with people staying home. You know, children who used to get a breakfast program at school who are now at home and maybe not eating properly. I know that we have groups in Mississauga feeding our people 1,300 meals just by a group called Feed Mississauga every week, right? So there's a lot of need in the community. And while I say there is a lot of need, it's also been a time where people have been most generous. We raised almost $3 million for a food bank and $5 million for our hospital, Trillium Health Partners, for PPE. So it is a time of great generosity, but also a time of great need. And yes, of course, there will be mental health issues to address.
Thank you, Mayor Crombie. Mayor Brown, one question about the growth in the Peel region, specifically Brampton. A lot of it is driven by immigration. Do you see change in immigration patterns, or do you see it? You know, there's going to be more, less. What are your thoughts on it?
I think this is a moment in time right now, this pandemic, and it's changing immigration. Because everything is on hold right now. But as soon as this pandemic's over, you know, Canada is proud to be a multicultural mosaic. Brampton is proud to be a mosaic of the world. And I'm sure as soon as the pandemic is over, we'll go back to that, to being that country that welcomes the world to Canada. So I think this is a temporary change, not a permanent change.
Fantastic. Very well said, Mayor Brown. And I think in every crisis there's an opportunity, and everything is relative, and we look around and even though we might actually be a little hard on ourselves sometimes, we look around the world and we might actually be doing a lot better than a lot of the rest of the world. So we could be that beacon of calm that a lot of the world can be looking out to. So on that note, I think we run out of time. I'd like to thank Mayor Crombie, Mayor Brown, Pramod ji for your time. Thank you very much. And we'll definitely want to have you guys back on our Leaders Talk sometime in the future. And thank you very much, everybody, for watching.
Thank you.
We'd like to take a few moments to recognize some of our sponsors right now. So let us just, if we can just put up the slides, please. Thank you. Yeah, we've got to thank our technology partner, Tangentia, and we've got to thank our gold sponsor, Turkish Airlines, bronze sponsor, ICCC Bank, Peter and Paul, silver sponsor, TD Bank. All our annual sponsors, RBC, TELUS, Raymond James, Seneca, SBI, Canada Bank, GT20, and our media partners, The Weekly Voice, Y Media, PTC Punjabi. And thank you, everybody, for attending. If you have anything that you might want to talk to us about, know anything about today's program, how to become a member of the ICCC, write to icccc@icconline.org. And we have one more big event coming up tomorrow. Those of you who can make it to our event tomorrow, please attend the event that we have. It is on the travel and tourism. We have the Ontario Minister for Tourism, Lisa McLeod, will be attending tomorrow, same time, 4:30. Those of you who can make it, please make it tomorrow. And the rest of you, would like to thank all of you for attending. I'd like to give Pramod a last few seconds to have some closing comments. So over to you, Pramod.
Thank you, Vijay. I would like to express our sincere thanks and appreciation for both the mayors to have taken the time and to be with us this afternoon to have their comments on some of the questions that came in from our membership. And I would also like to extend thanks to all the participants who joined us through WebEx and through Facebook Live to participate in the program. Thank you and have a good afternoon.
Have a nice one, everybody. Bye.